In this video, I'm going to go over the description of the form fields. The first field I'm going to go over is the custom HTML field. In this field, you can insert your own HTML content to your Joomla form. For example, I will put in here mailing list, and I will label this a header. I will click save, and this is what it looks like. Next, we have the text input field, and in here we have several options. Simple text type is used for submitting plain text, and down here are some of the items that we need to fill out. In the field label option, we can provide a custom field label with a text input field. So I'm going to put in here, type your text here as an example. Next, we have the field label position, and here we can choose whether the label will be at the left or at the top of the field. I'm going to leave this in its default position for now. In the field label size, I will put 150 pixels so we can fit our text in one row. In the field size input, we get to decide the size of the text input field. So I'll put in here 300 pixels. And below this, we have the value if empty option, and in here you can decide to display text when the field is empty. I will put in here type text, and you can see it appears in the bar. But when I click it, the text disappears. Further down, we will see a box label required, and we will check this box. The allow only unique values box will only be checked if you want the value of the field to be unique for each submission. And I will click on this as well. And there are also additional attributes for customizing specific properties of the field. And here you can use JavaScript functions that are defined in the Edit JavaScript section of the Form Maker. And finally, we need to decide whether we're going to place this form at the end, at the beginning, or before a certain field in this form. I will put this at the beginning. We will click save, and we will now see our field here. Below the simple text, we have the password field. This field can be used for adding a password field to your form. It has the same options as simple text. I would click save, and now we see our field. Next comes the text area. This field can be used for typing some text. The difference between text area and simple text is that simple text has only one row, while text area can have several rows. That's why the text area has two different size fields in which you can edit. I will click save, and here is our text area field. Before I move forward, I want to speak about edit, delete, and other buttons for the fields. If you want to edit a field, you can double click the field, and you will be taken to the edit field box. You can also edit the field by clicking on this pencil here. You can remove the field if you want by clicking the red X here. This green icon will let you make a duplicate of the field. Now we'll go over drag and drop. So I will click this field here, and I can then move it up here. Or I can move it to the right, back over to the left, and down. I could also use these arrows here to move my field around as well. So I can go up, down, to the right, and back over to the left. You will notice at the top here that the enable drag and drop box is checked. If I uncheck the box, we would only be able to move the fields using the arrows. Now I'm going to move on to the name field. This field can be used for typing a name. Default field labels can be edited by clicking on the field label and typing in a custom label. So I can click first and change it if I want to. I can do the same if I click on last. Next, we have the name format, and here we have two options. We have normal and extended. If you select extended, for example, it will add a title and middle name field. You can click and edit these as well. I will click Save. We can see our added field here. Here we have the address field. This field can be used for adding an address. Default field labels can be edited by clicking on the label and typing in a custom label. So I can click into these fields and edit them as well. I can choose to disable fields I don't want by clicking on the boxes. So for instance, if I didn't want the country label to appear, I would just click on it and it becomes disabled. If I click the use list for US states, it will display all 50 states. But I will have to go into the country and select United States from the drop-down, and then I would be able to pick the state I want from the drop-down here. We'll click Save, and we can see our added field. Following address, we have address mark on map. This field can be used for adding an address by directly marking it on a map. We can specify the default location which will be displayed on the map by default. So I can go into the map, select the icon, and move it to the location I want by clicking and dragging it. So I will put the icon here, and so now this address becomes my default location. In the marker info field, we can provide the marker with the corresponding text, and it will be displayed when we click on the marker. So I will type in here, for instance, your location. And when I click on the marker, you can see the label appear. I will click Save to add the created field. Below this field, we have email. You can set up the form options so the user gets a copy of the submission. You can get more information about the email options in the video called Form Options. The email field is verified by JavaScript. I will click Save to add the created field to our form. Next we have Send Copy to Submitter. This field allows the submitter to choose whether they want to receive the copy of the submitted form or not. Please make sure you have email options configured correctly in Form Options. The number field is the same as simple text, except that it doesn't allow you to write text in the box, only numbers. I will click Save to add the field. I will now move on to phone, and this field can be used to provide a phone number. The phone number has two labels which you can edit by clicking on them. Finally, in the text input section, we have the hidden field option. In hidden field, you can add things with JavaScript such as browser or user info, which you can submit with the form. Next, we have the multiple choice form field. This field can be used for selecting the values from a list of checkboxes. So the first item you have is the field label, and I will put in here favorite product. If I wanted to, I could change the relative position to have it be set at vertical or horizontal. So for our example, I will leave it at vertical. Below this we have the rows and columns section, and in here we can decide how many rows and columns our multi-choice field will have. Below the rows and columns we have the class name, and in here you can define the CSS class of the field in the theme. I'm going to make this a required field. Now if I click the randomize at front end option, this will display the options of the field in a random order. I will change the options fields. So option 1 will say Joomla Form Maker. Option 2 will say Joomla Gallery WD. And the third option will say Spider Box. You will notice that there is an Allow Other option. If I click on the box, this option appears over here. If you check this option, the users will be able to type another item that they like that is not included. I will click Save to add it to our form. Next we have single choice. This field can be used for selecting the values from a list of radio buttons. The first thing I'm going to do is change the field label to operating system. This time I'm going to mark the relative position as horizontal. Now I'll come back to the rows and columns field in just a moment. I'm going to change option 1 to Windows XP. And option 2 I will put in Windows Vista. But I'm going to add 2 more options so I can show you how the rows and columns field works. So I will click the plus sign twice to add the 2 rows. And in this box I will put in Mac OS X. And this one I will put in Linux. As you have noticed, we have 4 option fields now. And real quick, I will show you what happens if we type in 2. And you will notice we get 2 columns with fields stacked on top of each other. So I'm going to keep this as is. Then I'm going to click Save. After single choice, we have survey tools. We have a few options to pick from, so I will go over each option now. The first option is the star rating. This field can be used for inserting star rating field in the form. So in here you can choose how many stars you want to include in your rating. So I'll put here 8 as an example. Here you can choose the star color. Right now it's at yellow, but you can change it by clicking the drop down and picking something different. I'll go with blue, and now when I hover over the stars, they are blue. Next we have scale rating. This field can be used for inserting a scale rating in the form. It is very similar to star rating. Here you can edit the worst and best field titles as well by clicking them. This one here is spinner. This field could be used for inserting a spinner as a rating system in the form. Down here we can type a min value for the rating and max value for the rating for the spinner. So the min value I will put 0, and for the max value I will put 100. And then I can go to the spinner and press up, and the numbers go up from 0 to 100. This here is the step. In here I can define by what value the numbers jump up in the spinner. Right now it is at 1, so if I set it to 2, the numbers jump and down the scale by 2. This is the slider. This field can be used for inserting a slider as a rating system in the form. So you can slide the numbers up and down to rate an item. You can define the min and max value as well. Next we have range. This field can be used for inserting a range system in the form. You can set a step for this as well. And after range we have grading. This field can be used for inserting a grading system in the form. In the total field we can put in the max total we want for a grading system. So right now it is at 100. So our grading total cannot exceed 100. You can edit the list items here. Now I will put in some numbers to show you how the grading system works. And you can see if I exceed 100, it says that the total should be less than 100. The last item we have is matrix. This field can be used for inserting a matrix in the form. I can decide what kind of input type I want by clicking on the drop down. So I can select between radio, checkbox, text box, and drop down. This is the time and date form field. This field we are going to go over is the date with single field with a picker. This field can be used by choosing a date by the picker here. Next we have the date 3 separate fields option. This field can be used for typing date in a 3-field format, such as day, month, and year. The default field labels can be edited by clicking on the field label and typing in a custom label. Each of the 3 fields can be set as text input or select list. First comes the day field type. Here we need to decide whether the date will be typed in or selected from a drop-down menu. And I will leave this on the default select choice. For the year field, the range of years can be specified here. You can change the ranges if you want. So I'll just leave them like this. I will save the form and here it is. The last item we have is the time field. This field can be used for typing a time. The default field labels can be edited by clicking on the field label and typing in a custom label. Next, we need to choose our time format. And when I change it to 12-hour, the AM/PM option is added to the field. Next, we need to choose whether we will display the seconds or not. And I'm going to choose not to display the seconds. I will click Save, and here is our field. Following time and date, we have Select Box. In the Select Box field, you have two options to choose from. You can either choose Custom Select or Countries List. I will go over Custom Select first. This field can be used for selecting the values from a list. For example, I'm going to write gender in this field. I will choose my field label position to be at the top. Below this, we have the list items, and I will replace select value with I am. And now we will specify three options. You will notice a check next to select value. This is the empty value checkbox. You will check this box only if you want the option to be considered as empty. The empty value field will not appear in the submissions. So I will put in here female, and in this one I will put male. So if I want to add another field, all I have to do is click on this plus here, and it will bring up an empty field for me to fill in. And so in here I will put in other. Now I have my form set up the way I want, and so I will click Save, and here is our form. The second option available under the Select Box field is Country List. This field can be used for selecting a country from a list. The File Upload field can be used for uploading a file. In maximum size, we need to specify the maximum size of our file in kilobytes. And I will leave the default value of 2000. We then need to specify the destination of where the file will be uploaded in this field here. Again, I will leave this on its default setting. Next, we have allowed file extensions, and these are the file extensions that we want to allow for uploading separated by commas. I will click Save, and here is our field. This is section break. This option allows adding a section break to the form page. So if I wanted to make a one-column field as wide as a two-column field without disturbing the two-column field, I would insert a section break. So in my example, I have two column fields here, and I have separated them from the text area by inserting a section break. The text area is 2 columns wide, so if I move it up here, you will notice that it disrupts the two fields I already have. You can also edit the section break line as well. You don't have to use the default straight line. I can click into it, and I can put in here section 2, and this is what it looks like. Next to section break is page break. The page break field can be used to break the form into distinct pages. Use page title to provide a title for the given page. I'm going to call this page 2. I then need to specify the next type, and this can either be text or an image, and I think I'm going to go with an image. Now I'm going to move on to the check the required fields box. If I check off this box, this means that the person will not be allowed to proceed to the next page without filling out all the required fields on the current page. Now for the previous navigation link, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to choose the previous type as an image. Now you can edit the image for both the next and previous navigation links. You don't have to use the default image. Before I move on, I'm going to talk about these 4 buttons. This green button is the show or hide the page button. Let's say you have a lot of pages on your form and you want to work on one of the pages. You can use this button to hide the other pages like this, so you can focus on one page. The delete the page button will delete a page from your form while preserving the fields. The fields of the deleted page will be moved to the previous page. The Delete the Page with Fields button will delete the page and all the fields on that page. And finally, you can click on the blue pencil here to edit a field. This is the map field. This field can be used for pointing out some position on the map. The position of the marker is fixed at the front end. First thing I'm going to do is change the map size width and height to 500 pixels. I'll put in a random address inside the address field so you can see how the changes takes effect. If I want, I can also move the marker to place it on an address I want as well. I can add an extra marker by clicking the plus sign here, and I can move it around as well. And in the marker info, we can type in text for others to see if they click on the marker. So I will type in here location. I'll press save, and here is our map. This is the PayPal field. Form Maker allows you to receive online payments by using PayPal. As you can see, we have many fields to choose from, and I'm going to go over what each of these fields does. The first field I'm going to go over is the amount field. This field is for indicating the amount of payment. I'm not going to do much with the first three fields, so I'll skip over these. This here is the range, and in here we need to specify the minimum and maximum values of the payment amount. So I will set the minimum to 10 and the maximum to 100. If we wanted text to appear in this empty field up here, we would type something into the value if empty field. So real quick, if I wanted to have X's appear in the empty fields, I would put them here and here, and as you can see, they appear inside my empty dollar and cents fields. One last thing, you can edit the labels here if you wanted to. All you would do is double click the label and type what you want. And here's the field in our form. Next we have select. This field can be used for selecting the product, service, for which the payment is being made. The list, which each item consists of product name and its price, can be specified by the options attribute. You can easily add and remove list items. In this section, I can add their product names and their prices. I can add more products if I want by clicking this plus sign here, and I'll do that right now. And I'll put in here shorts. Below the product options, we have the quantity property. If I check this, you can see the quantity of the product displayed below the item. The checkbox and radio options have exactly the same fields as the select option I discussed, so there's nothing new here, so I will skip over it. I will move on to shipping now. This field could be used for selecting the shipping option for the selected product. I can type the shipping type and the price. So in type 1 I will put regular, and the price will be $10. In type 2 I will put in express, and the price will be $25. I will click save, and here it is in our form. The last item we have is total. This field calculates the total sum to be paid via PayPal, which includes the payments for the shipping and taxes. I'm going to have this appear at the end of my form, and I'm going to click save. Now I will go into the front end and put in a dollar amount here. I'll pick my product, color, the size, and what shipping option I want, and it gives me my total. Following the PayPal field, we have the CAPTCHA field. This field can be used for ensuring that the submission is generated by a person. I'm going to go over simple CAPTCHA. Simple CAPTCHA is easy to configure. Here we have the CAPTCHA size. In here we specify the number of digits and symbols from 3 to 9. What I would do is change this to 9, and we can see the results in the preview section. The next option is reCAPTCHA. To use this option, you need to set up a public and private keys on the Google reCAPTCHA website. So I'm not going to go over this. Finally, I'm going to go over the buttons. And we have two options we can choose. The first one is submit and reset. This field can be used for inserting a submit reset button into the form. You can display reset button by checking the box called display reset button. And I'll click save, and here it is. The next choice is custom, and in here you can make custom buttons and you can add as many as you want. The one-click function field allows you to enter the JavaScript function that will be called when the user clicks the button. You can define the JavaScript functions in the JavaScript tab in the form options. So these are the descriptions of the form fields.